Today's game features Carlsen, Magnus playing as white against Woojin as black. Move 0. White advances the pawn to d4. Black now plays knight to f6. Contesting the center. White pawn to c4. Black supports the center with e6. Next, white develops the knight naturally. At this point, black pawn to d5. White knight jumps to c3. At this point, black brings out the dark squared bishop. White places the bishop on f4. Black castles kingside. Move 5. White advances to e3, the position is unclear. Black responds with pawn to c5, controlling key squares. White plays pawn captures pawn. Black bishop captures pawn, improving the worst placed piece. White bishop slides to e2, building the initiative. Black pawn takes the pawn. White slides the queen to c2. Black knight jumps to c6. White takes the pawn with the bishop. Now, black advances on the flank. We're at move 10. White brings the king to the kingside. Black queen to e7. White continues with doubles rooks on the file. Black develops the bishop to d7. White knight to e4. Coordinating for maximum effect. Black knight captures the knight on e4. White continues with boldly takes knight with the queen, creating tactical motifs. Black responds with brings the rook into play. White pawn to a3. Black deploys the rook to d8. On move 15, white pawn moves to h4. Continuing, bishop moves to e8, with time starting to run short. White rook takes rook, mindful of the clock. Black rook trades rook. White repositions the rook. Black plays repositions the bishop for better activity. White deploys the bishop to d3. Meanwhile, black pushes forward to f5. White responds with centralizes the powerful queen. And here, develops the bishop to f7. On move 20, white bishop takes bishop on d6. A model endgame performance. Black queen captures the bishop on d6. White deploys the bishop to e2, a subtle improvement. Black pushes the passed pawn to e5. White queen moves to b5. Black advances the critical pawn. It's white's turn. Knight jumps to h2. And here, black the pawn marches forward. White plays deploys the rook to d1. Black responds with repositions the queen to c7, in time trouble. Move 25. White rook exchanges into the endgame. Checking the king. Meanwhile, knight takes rook, winning material. White repositions the knight to f1. With the clock running down. Black responds with pawn takes pawn, simplifying. With limited time remaining. White knight captures pawn, moving closer to victory. Converting with precision. Black repositions the knight to e6. White develops the bishop to c4. Black pushes forward to a6. With time running out, white now plays brings out the queen to f5, a textbook endgame technique. Interestingly, black brings the knight closer to the action. With the clock about to expire. We're at move 30. White queen takes pawn on e4. Coordinating king and pawns. Now, black bishop snaps off the bishop, making progress step by step, with almost no time remaining. Now, white queen captures knight, moving closer to victory. With less than a minute on the clock, black bishop moves to e6, on the brink of losing on time. Next, white pushes to f3. Black continues with king walks to f7. Nearly out of time. White steps the king to f2, under time pressure. Black plays pushes forward to b5. With the clock ticking to 0. White advances to g4. Black activates the queen in the endgame, check. With only seconds left on the clock. Move 35. White knight to g2. Black king marches up the board, in desperate time trouble. White plays repositions the queen to f4. Next, activates the queen in the endgame, with almost no time remaining. White activates the queen in the endgame, a questionable choice. Black now deploys the bishop to c4, playing in extreme time pressure. White deploys the queen to e8, and check. A forcing move. Black plays king marches up the board, nearly out of time. So, white queen to e1. Black brings out the queen to h2, on the brink of losing on time. We're at move 40. White pawn moves to b3. With time running out. At this point, bishop moves to d5, with the clock ticking to 0. White activates the queen in the endgame, holding a slight edge. With just seconds remaining. So, black repositions the bishop, with the clock about to expire. Meanwhile, repositions the queen to d4, with barely any time left. Black king enters the battle, with almost no time remaining. White pushes to b4, activating the king. Racing against the clock. Black plants the bishop on c4. With only seconds left on the clock. White advances the pawn to a4. In severe time trouble. Black queen to h1. Nearly out of time. Move 45. White advances the pawn, fighting the clock. Christopher Woojin resigns. Carlsen, Magnus wins the game.